Around her, the remaining soldiers begin to regroup, their faces a mix of relief and sorrow. They know they've survived because of Bonner's sacrifice. In the weeks that follow, humanity begins to rebuild. Monuments are erected in honor of the fallen heroes, with Bonner's name etched in the center. His story becomes a symbol of courage and resilience, a reminder of the cost of freedom and the strength of the human spirit. As Sarah stands before the monument, she places the photograph at its base. "We'll never forget," she says softly, her voice firm. The camera pans out, showing Earth battered but alive, a testament to the enduring will of humanity. The battle is over, but the legacy of those who fought and sacrificed ensures that the future will be brighter. The cloaked Titan reappeared behind a towering Goric commander, his massive fist crashing down like a meteor. The alien's bioarmor shattered, sending it crumpling to the ground. Another Titan charged headlong into the fray, grabbing a Goric soldier and hurling it into a nearby energy cannon, causing it to explode in a dazzling burst of light. Every movement was precise, deliberate, and devastating. The Goric, who had torn through the Etherians like paper, now faced resistance unlike anything they had ever seen. The suspense grew as the Etherians dared to hope. Could these so-called primitive humans, the same species they had dismissed as muscle-bound barbarians, actually stand a chance against the unstoppable Goric horde? "They're winning," whispered Rilya, her glowing eyes fixed on the screen. "Impossible," Virex muttered, shaking his head. But as the Titans continued their relentless assault, pushing the Goric back, a single thought began to take root in the minds of the Etherians. Perhaps brute strength wasn't so primitive after all. The scene ends with Marcus raising his hand to signal the next phase of their assault. "Titans," he growls, "show them what humans are made of." The scene shifts to Earth, to a hidden military facility buried deep beneath the surface. The facility, known only as Project Titan, was a top-secret program designed to create the perfect soldier. For years, scientists had worked in silence, combining the best of human genetics with cutting-edge technology, in the hope of making Earth's military strong enough to protect humanity from alien threats. Little did the world know, the program's ultimate test would come much sooner than expected. Inside a sterile laboratory, a team of scientists watched as the first batch of Titans underwent the final stages of their transformation. These soldiers were not like the ones you see in ordinary armies. They had been genetically enhanced to possess strength, speed, and resilience far beyond the limits of normal humans. Their bodies had been modified with biomechanical implants, allowing them to endure extreme conditions and take on enemies far stronger than themselves. But it wasn't just their muscles that made them special, it was their unmatched will to fight. In one chamber, Captain Marcus stood in front of a giant mirror, looking at his reflection. His body was massive, his muscles rippling beneath the advanced combat suit. But what really set him apart was the fire in his eyes. He was more than just a machine of war, he was a warrior who understood what it meant to fight for something greater than himself. He'd been chosen to lead the Titans, and he wasn't going to fail. The director of the program, Dr. Elena Voss, approached Marcus, her voice low but firm. "You understand why you were selected, right?" she asked. Marcus nodded. "The Goric," he replied. "Their bioengineered soldiers are destroying everything in their path. But they've never faced anything like us before." Dr. Voss nodded in agreement. "The alien technology, the cloaking devices, the advanced weaponry, none of it has worked. Our tech is too sophisticated, too vulnerable. We needed something else. Something that could take on their brutal strength without relying on machines." "Human resilience, you mean," Marcus said. "The Goric are powerful, but they lack what we have, the will to keep going, even when we're outmatched." "Exactly," Dr. Voss said. "Brains may win wars, but muscles survive the battle. The Titans are the last line of defense. You're not just soldiers, you're humanity's final hope." The philosophy behind Project Titan wasn't just about physical strength, it was about survival. While the Etherians and other alien species relied on advanced technology and intellect, humanity's secret weapon was something far simpler: the unbreakable will to fight for survival, no matter the odds. In the following days, Marcus and his team underwent brutal training exercises. They sparred against each other in the gym, pushing their bodies to the limit. They learned how to use their enhanced strength and agility in real combat situations, preparing for an enemy that didn't care about fair fights. They learned to fight with everything they had, knowing that each battle could be their last. But through it all, they remained focused. They weren't just fighting for victory, they were fighting for humanity's future. Back on Limera 7, the Etherians had just witnessed the Titans' arrival. They were still skeptical, unsure if these human soldiers were anything more than primitive warriors. But the Titans' actions spoke louder than words. As the battle continued to rage, it became clear that the genetically enhanced strength of these humans, combined with their unyielding will, was making all the difference. The Goric forces were powerful, but they hadn't counted on humanity's determination to fight to the very end. As Marcus stood at the forefront of the battle, leading his team, he couldn't help but think back to the words of Dr. Voss. Muscles survived the battle. And right now, that was exactly what they needed. The air was thick with tension as the Titans and the Goric horde faced off on the broken streets of Limera 7. Above them, the sky erupted in chaos. Orbital bombardments from Goric warships lit up the heavens, their glowing red lasers slicing through the dark clouds. The ground shook as explosions shook the city, sending dust and debris flying. For a moment, it seemed like the whole world was coming apart. But through the smoke and fire, the Titans moved forward. Marcus, the leader of the team, was the first to charge. His massive figure cut through the chaos, his advanced suit glowing in the darkness. He was a living force of nature, with every step sending vibrations through the ground. Behind him, the other Titans followed in a synchronized charge. Their boots cracked against the shattered pavement, echoing through the air as they powered toward the Goric lines. One of the Titans, Lena, darted ahead, her movements swift and fluid despite her size. She activated a cloaking device, vanishing from sight. The Goric forces, busy focusing on the incoming assault, had no idea what hit them. Lena reappeared behind enemy lines, her presence a deadly surprise. A massive Goric mech, its glowing red eyes scanning the battlefield, was preparing to fire on the Etherians hiding in a nearby shelter. With a swift, graceful motion, Lena used her enhanced strength to leap onto the mech's back, her hands gripping the armored plating. In one move, she pulled a specialized EMP grenade from her belt and jammed it into the mech's control panel. The EMP detonated, sending shockwaves through the machine. The mech froze, its massive limbs locking in place, and then it collapsed to the ground in a heap of sparks and twisted metal. The Goric soldiers nearby screamed in rage, but they didn't have time to react. The Titans were already on them. Meanwhile, Drax, the largest of the Titans, was engaged in close-quarters combat with several Goric warriors. His fists were like wrecking balls, smashing through their alien armor with every punch. One Goric soldier lunged at him with a long energy blade, but Drax caught its wrist mid-swing, twisting it with ease. With a powerful shove, he sent the warrior flying across the battlefield. As the battle raged on, the Titans continued to make progress, but it wasn't without cost. The Goric, relentless in their assault, quickly adapted to the humans' tactics. They brought in bio-enhanced shock troops, soldiers bred for sheer strength and speed, who began to swarm the Titans. These new foes were faster and tougher, and the battle began to tip in the Goric's favor. Despite their strength, the Titans were now fighting for survival. They had underestimated how quickly the Goric could adapt. Drax, though a giant among giants, found himself surrounded by Goric shock troops. He fought valiantly, his massive fists sending aliens flying, but there were too many. One Goric managed to land a crushing blow to his chest, sending him to the ground. The other Titans saw their friend fall and rushed to his side, but it was too late. Drax was already struggling to breathe, his combat suit leaking energy. His eyes met Marcus's, and with his final breath, he spoke. "Tell Earth, we don't break." Those words, heavy with meaning, would stay with the Titans for the rest of the battle, and the rest of their lives. The Titans pushed forward, but the loss of Drax weighed heavily on them. Lena, shaking with rage, activated her suit systems to boost her speed and strength. She took out several Gorak with quick, brutal strikes. Marcus, too, fought harder, his eyes burning with a fierce determination. They knew they had to keep fighting, for themselves, for Drax, and for the future of humanity. Despite the loss, the battle was far from over. The Titans had made their mark, but the war had only just begun. The Gorak would be back, stronger and angrier. The Titans' mission had changed. This wasn't just about saving Limera 7 anymore, it was about survival. The battle on Limera 7 raged on, but there was a shift in the air. The loss of Drax weighed heavily on the Titans. He had been more than just a teammate, he was a symbol of their strength and unity. With his death, the Titans were no longer just fighting for survival, they were fighting to honor his memory. But despite the intense grief that gripped them, they couldn't afford to stop. The war was far from over. After the battle subsided, the Titans took a moment to regroup. They gathered around Drax's lifeless body, their faces grim, their hearts heavy with sorrow. Marcus stood tall, his eyes fixed on the horizon, but his mind was replaying every moment of the battle, the brutal strike that took Drax down, the look of defiance in his eyes before he fell. Lena wiped the dirt from her brow, her voice barely a whisper. "We can't let his death be in vain. We need to keep going." Marcus turned to her, his expression hardening. "We will. But we're not alone in this fight anymore. The Etherians are watching us. And they're starting to believe." As the Titans carried Drax's body to a temporary resting place, the Etherians began to emerge from their shelters. Their fragile, translucent bodies glowed faintly in the dim light, and their eyes were full of awe and wonder. They had witnessed the Titans' strength, their resilience. But it wasn't just the Titans' power that had inspired them, it was their willingness to fight, no matter the cost. Then, something unexpected happened. A young Etherian child, no more than 8 or 9 years old, stepped forward, holding something tightly in her small hands. It was a makeshift weapon, clearly cobbled together from scavenged materials. She approached Marcus, her eyes wide with both fear and hope. I want to help," the child said in a soft voice, looking up at him. Her hands trembled as she held out the weapon. Marcus knelt down to her level, his voice gentle but firm. "You're safe here. You don't need to fight." The child's eyes filled with determination. "But you protect us. Now let us protect you." The words hit Marcus harder than he expected. For a moment, he just stared at her, overwhelmed by the sheer bravery in her voice. This child, fragile and small, was willing to stand with them, despite the odds. It was a powerful reminder of why they fought, not just for survival, but for the future of every innocent life, no matter how small. With a nod, Marcus accepted the weapon, his heart swelling with pride. "Thank you. Your strength means more than you know." The Titans knew they couldn't do it alone. The Etherians had their own strengths, intelligence, agility, and a deep understanding of their world's terrain. What they lacked in brute force, they made up for in strategic thinking. It was time to train them to fight alongside the Titans. The next few days were spent in intensive training. The Titans taught the Etherians guerrilla tactics, showing them how to use their knowledge of the landscape to outmaneuver the Gorak. Lena led a group in hit-and-run attacks, demonstrating how to strike quickly and disappear before the enemy could retaliate. Marcus taught them how to use their surroundings for cover, how to create distractions, and how to fight as a unit. The Etherians absorbed the lessons quickly, adapting to their new roles with surprising speed. They learned how to set up ambushes, using the terrain to their advantage. The Titans showed them how to blend strength with strategy, How to be brutal when necessary, but also intelligent when the situation called for it. Slowly but surely, the Etherians went from helpless civilians to fierce guerrilla fighters, their once frail bodies now hardened by the fires of war. One evening, after a long day of training, the Titans and Etherians sat together, sharing a quiet moment. They had come a long way since the first battle, and though the war was far from over, they had found a new sense of purpose. Marcus looked out at the horizon, where the setting sun cast long shadows across the broken city. "We're not just fighting for ourselves anymore," he said, his voice heavy with emotion. "We're fighting for everyone. For Drax. For the Etherians. For Earth. And we won't stop. Not until we win." The Etherians, now standing side by side with the Titans, nodded in agreement. Their resolve was stronger than ever. Together, they would face the Gorak, and no matter how hard the battle, they would never break. The Gorak horde had been relentless, pushing the Titans and the Etherians to their limits. But now, the Gorak had revealed their trump card, the Dread Titan, a massive, AI-controlled warship capable of leveling entire planets. The warship's dark, imposing silhouette loomed in the sky above Limera 7, casting a shadow over the battlefield. Its weapons were powerful enough to obliterate the last remnants of the planet and everything on it. The Titans knew that they had no choice, they had to stop it, or else everything they fought for would be lost. As the Dread Titan prepared to unleash its full destructive power, the Titans and their Etherian allies made their final push. With the last remnants of the Etherian resistance, they launched a desperate assault on the warship, a final stand against the overwhelming might of the Gorak. Marcus, Lena, and the rest of the Titans led the charge, their combat suits charged with energy as they moved toward the looming menace. They had trained and fought together, but this battle would push them beyond anything they had ever faced. The Titans infiltrated the Dread Titan, using their advanced technology to disable the warship's exterior defenses. Explosions lit up the sky as automated turrets and drones fired at them from every angle. Sparks flew as the Titan suits absorbed the impact of the Gorak's fierce assault. Each step forward was a battle, each corner they turned led them into an increasingly deadly gauntlet of automated defenses. Yet the Titans pressed on, their focus unwavering. Their mission was clear: destroy the AI core controlling the Dread Titan and stop the Gorak once and for all. Inside the ship, the atmosphere was tense, every hallway and corridor filled with the sound of laser fire and the clashing of metal. The Etherians fought alongside them, using their guerrilla tactics to sabotage the Gorak's automated systems. They slipped into the shadows, setting traps and disabling key systems to allow the Titans to move deeper into the ship. The teamwork between the Etherians and the Titans was seamless, strength and strategy working in perfect harmony. Finally, the team reached the heart of the ship, the AI core, a massive, glowing mass of twisted circuits and energy. It was surrounded by heavily armed Gorak shock troops and automated sentries. As the Titans prepared to breach the core's defenses, they knew this would be their most dangerous moment yet. But the stakes were higher than ever. If they didn't destroy the AI now, the Dread Titan would lay waste to the entire planet. In the midst of the chaos, Marcus made a decision. The core was heavily protected, and no amount of brute force would get through its defenses. He knew the only way to destroy it was to deliver a sacrificial blow. He would have to stay behind, set the detonator, and ensure the explosion went off. Lena reached out to him, her voice filled with panic. "Marcus, no. You can't, there has to be another way." Marcus gave her a sad smile, his eyes steady but full of emotion. "There isn't. I'll finish this." With one last look at his team, Marcus activated the explosive device. He was ready to make the ultimate sacrifice for the sake of humanity and the Etherians. As the countdown began, the Titans fought back the remaining Gorak forces, buying Marcus the time he needed. But just before the explosion, Marcus transmitted one final message to his team, to the world, one last piece of his legacy. Humanity's strength isn't in our muscles, it's in our heart. The explosion rocked the ship. It was a blinding flash of light that tore through the core, sending shockwaves through the entire warship. The dread Titan trembled, its massive structure groaning under the force of the destruction. The core collapsed, and with it, the Gorik's weapon of mass destruction was no more. The ship's systems began to fail, and the Gorik forces, no longer under the control of their AI, started to retreat. The Titans, though devastated by the loss of their leader, had achieved their mission. The Etherians, now fully integrated into the battle, cheered. They had won. But for the Titans, victory was bittersweet. They had lost one of their own, but Marcus's sacrifice had ensured the future of both humanity and the Etherians. As the remaining Titans stood in the wreckage, they made a vow: they would continue to fight for what was right, and they would never forget the hero who had given everything for the cause. The final showdown had ended, but the story of humanity's strength, courage, and heart had just begun.